Bitcoin gives you a lot of actually relaxation because you're actually saving in something that is with a high likelihood rising in value. And being now self-employed for 10 years, I think that was always an issue, to have enough funds to actually finance your life if you have some bad months or a bad year or something. And thanks to saving now mainly in Bitcoin, there's now just so much more safety. It's like safety net for me right now. It's actually the only social app I've installed on my phone. So I'm still using different social media, but on the phone I only have Nostr, because first I deinstalled the other apps because I just didn't want to check my phone all the time. I think now the problem is I'm checking Nostr all the time. Internet should work like that. You should be able to send value, not just emails and information. I think that is something that was a component of the internet that was missing for a long time, and now we have it. Thanks to Bitcoin, thanks to Lightning, and thanks to Nostr, of course.
Philipp Alexander, hello, welcome.
Thank you very much. Hello,
So
Mo.
this is your first Bitcoin podcast, your debut into the Bitcoin podcasting world.
Right.
Let's learn about you first. It's always interesting to me to know about one's journey, how they got into Bitcoin. Once I asked this question from our common friend, Philip Charter, who is also an author. He was on the podcast. He was an English teacher, and I said, yeah, being an English teacher, how did you get into Bitcoin? And he said, well, wherever you are, you get into Bitcoin. And that was interesting to me. So the question is not what profession or what prior knowledge got you into Bitcoin, because everything will. That's I'm pretty convinced is true. But what factors accumulated and got you there? That's an interesting thing. So, for example, when he gave that answer, I thought about myself. I was a translator when I became interested in Bitcoin. So, how was the journey with you? Because when I search about you, I see about you have a very interesting post about Notion, which I watched many of them, and also about Obsidian and comparing them, and how to increase productivity and probably psychological well-being and concentration. How did you get into Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Yes, my main career is being a Notion consultant. So I'm showing companies, I'm consulting companies on using Notion for their workflows so that their teams can work more productive. But I think that has not much to do with my Bitcoin journey. I think that journey started much earlier. So back in the day, I was studying business. And yeah, when I graduated, what I realized is that, okay, our economy is kind of in a very bad shape at the moment. That was more than 10 years ago. And I was wondering, so I cannot really explain what caused that. So what are the problems? So at university, I never learned about that. So of course, I studied business, not economy, but we had some economy lessons, and they were more Keynesian based, of course. And I had to feel, okay, that doesn't make sense. Something is off here, but I cannot say what is wrong. And so I think that started a research journey. And I think after a while, I stumbled across the book Denationalization of Money by Hayek. And I think in that book, he was saying about, okay, we need some competition in currencies. It's not good if a state can actually monopolize and control the currency. And I think it was also in this book where he stated, or maybe it was an interview, I'm not sure now 100%, but he stated that we probably need some sly roundabout way to find a good, to get good money again. Yeah, so that book impressed me a lot actually, but also left me a bit depressed because I couldn't see a way out or how this could be resolved. And yeah, I think, but some months later, I was first reading about this internet money called Bitcoin, and was thinking, okay, maybe that sounds like a good idea. Maybe that is exactly what Hayek was writing about, some sly roundabout way to actually create a competition or a currency that compete with the state currencies. And so I did nothing. So I just forgot about it, I think for one more year or something, until a friend of mine, told me, hey, Philip, you should really check out this Bitcoin thing. And he showed me how to buy at that stage Bitcoin. I did that. I was thinking, oh, it's cool. And after some weeks, I sold it again, of course, with some small profit. And I was thinking, okay, I'm really a good trader. I made a nice profit with that sale. And I think I forgot it for some more years until the next cycle. It was, I think, the 2017 cycle with all the Ethereum shitcoins. So, of course, I was very deep into that at that time. So I would say I really got into Bitcoin maybe after the COVID pandemic. So when I was reading later the Bitcoin standard, then I was realizing, hey, actually, that makes sense. I think there is not really a second best. There's not really an alternative. Actually, Bitcoin is the solution. And after that time, I took Bitcoin more seriously. But unfortunately, I didn't really went deep into Bitcoin before.
That's a sleight of hand quotation that is from an interview I have seen where he talks about it. Really, it was unimaginable in that time to say such a thing, and you could think about it as a kind of dream, but different technologies came through and they made Bitcoin possible, and that's really magical. When you said that in business you had more Keynesian based economics, I was a bit taken by surprise because one of my very good friends who had studied business and on administration, I always forget what exactly the name of the major was, but my friend Sina, um, I am talking about. So in their field, the research they are doing should work. What you are saying, your theories must work because you are not talking about economy, you are not philosophizing about it, you are talking about business and you need to have some workable solutions. So I was taken by a surprise that it was the case. And I want to know, did it happen when you were still studying, and how were your changed views were viewed by people around you when you leaned towards Austrian economics and distance yourself from those Keynesian fiction?
Yeah. Interesting question. So I think it was pretty much at the end of the study. And at the end, I was maybe first hearing about the Austrian School of Economics. So during the study, that was never mentioned. So um, I just discovered, okay, there's a whole new field and interesting economists and theorists, but we never learned about that or heard it. Although we are from Austria, I'm from Austria, and so I didn't learn about economists from my country actually. But it was a process, so it took some years, of course. And yeah, how other people reacted, I would say most not so well. So I think there was a lot of opposition when I tried to explain things from that perspective. Yeah, and not so much understanding. I think luckily I found some meetups, some groups in Vienna where, that are more based or more close to the Austrian economics. So that definitely helped. Yeah.
I remember in your Notion video, you were also talking about tracking your investments in crypto, and you also mentioned you had some interest in Ethereum, as has been probably with all of us. We have all fallen prey to these distractions. Any major shitcoin that was out there, I gotten a part of when I was becoming a Bitcoiner. And it was even when I realized Bitcoin is going to increase in value over time, I still thought that I need to have one full Ethereum so that when it becomes like Bitcoin, I have one
Right.
full
Yeah.
piece, and I am a full coiner and stuff like that. Um, there were wallets I made. I even had a Monero wallet, but there was nothing in it. I really have respect for um, everyone who is interested in these coins. Anyway, in Monero, even in Ethereum, they think that the technology is correct. For me, money is one. It is Bitcoin. But if you are interested in technology, you want to experiment with something, you want CryptoKitties, there's no opposition if you want to go with Ethereum and all. What I am taking an issue with is that they are not money, and there is only one money.
Mhm.
And you also got into Austrian economics with Hayek, where he talks about the nationalization of money and competition. I haven't read the book, but I know of the books, and I know that he talks about the possibility of having several currencies. So, but we Bitcoiners say that Bitcoin and it is only Bitcoin. I have my own reasons why I think like this. Maybe if I was a gold maxi in before Bitcoin was even created, I wouldn't have had the same idea, and my idea would have been closer to that of Hayek. What made you become a Bitcoiner and get further away from other coins?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I think this financial dashboard in Notion, I'm not sure when I created the video. I think it's 2 or 3 years ago. And at that time, yes, I was still a bit invested, I think, in Ethereum and some other coins. Um, Coming from, I think, the Hayek proposition that there should be competing currencies and the market will decide which currency is the best. And actually, I think this is still true. So I think Bitcoin is something that should not be enforced on people. It should be used because it's the best currency, and at the current stage, I believe it's the best. But of course, it should be allowed to issue alternative currencies. Um, and in the end, people should decide, market should decide what is the best. Um, what finally changed my mind or made me a Bitcoin maximalist? Yes, I think it was, of course, like with so many others, it was the book The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammou. And while reading it, I realized, okay, Bitcoin is the only real decentralized money. So there's no founder, or there's a founder, but there's no public founder. There's no foundation, no company behind it. It's actually really decentralized, or more decentralized than the others. And then there was also the case with Ethereum going from proof of work to proof of stake, and realizing, okay, they can just change it and actually change the identity of the currency in such a profound way. Actually, I think that was a kind of an awakening call for me. And I think some weeks later, I sold all my Ethereums and converted them into Bitcoin.
And so the fact that you saw that it is really not really decentralized
Yeah,
is
yeah. That you can actually control it. And I think if it can be controlled by a centralized authority, I think it will be controlled eventually, because I think those forces are just too strong. And I think it was clear with Ethereum, okay, that it's not really, yeah, it's not really something independent. It's not really something decentralized. There are some guys on the top, and they can actually decide the way Ethereum will take. So that was when I realized, okay, it's a shitcoin.
And there are other currencies who have unknown founders, such as Monero, but still the community can make any update in form of hard fork, so things are coordinated and so centrally decided. It was really genius of Satoshi Nakamoto who probably decided, or maybe it was our luck that he just disappeared, or maybe he was afraid of so many forces around him that he decided to say nothing anymore. That made us having a currency that had a pseudonymous founder and whose founder could not voice any opinion about it. Otherwise, what we see with Ethereum would have happened, that it is years after its inception. But because Vitalik decides that it needs to change from proof of work to proof of stake, it can change, and then that's wild. Philip, now tell us about your book, 21 Voices, 21 Paths. Actually, that was the point I got to know you, that you are working on a book. It was a tweet from Philip Charter. He quoted your tweet because you wanted some people to share their stories. Actually, I volunteered. I might have something interesting to tell, but I am pretty sure that there might be many more interesting stories. My story would be interesting in the sense that nobody had to tell me about all the hypothetical situations that might happen. That if the banks go rogue and if the banks want to stop you, if you cannot trade with the world. Because I was living in Iran at the time, and all of these things were not if, they were is. Yeah, I want to know about your book, where on the roadmap you are, and what have you in mind for it?
Yes. Maybe first what the book is about. So I want to collect stories of Bitcoiners because I think most books actually focus on the technology. But for me, it's interesting to see actually who are the people behind, who are the Bitcoiners. And I think that's also the reason why so many people watch podcasts, because podcasts show people. And I think, okay, it could make sense to have a book that is maybe like a podcast showcasing different people from different backgrounds, from different countries, and their Bitcoin story. So I'm searching for people, and so not the big stars of Bitcoin like Saylor, etc., but people who are on the ground. For example, there's the first Bitcoin restaurant in Vienna, or a lady in Zambia who is actually founding a circular economy, city. I think even your story would be very interesting because it should be like a global project, and I think having a voice from Iran or that region could be interesting because I think here in the West, I think a lot of people don't get the use case for Bitcoin because actually, in most cases, the financial system is working. So of course, people get debanked, for example, but most people are not affected by it, so they don't care. And inflation, I think you're now in Poland. I think in Austria it hit like 10% some years ago, and the prices were like, I think in the last 5 years it feels like everything doubled in price, but people still,
Exactly.
it's not as bad as, for example, in Iran, I guess, or in other countries like Zimbabwe or Argentina. So people, I think the pain is still not enough to get actually the use case of Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm actually really interested, to hear your story. So maybe we can arrange something in the next weeks if you're interested. But the motivation behind the book is, I think, it was curiosity because I wanted to get to know Bitcoiners and I want to see, okay, who is actually founding companies that are Bitcoin based, or who is actually doing projects in the Bitcoin space. I wanted to talk to people. So it's, I would say also in a way, it's a kind of a networking project because it enables me to connect with people. And actually in the last weeks, I really made wonderful connections and met a lot of interesting people. So it's definitely something that paid off so far. Currently, I'm still conducting interviews. My goal is to reach 21 because that's the magical Bitcoin number. So it has to be 21, of course. I think I'm around like 10 or 11 this week. So I think I reached half of the interviews. And I hope maybe in September, October, I can start writing and publish next year. So at the moment, I'm also in contact with some publishers, so it might, get officially published. Alternatively, I also started a crowdfunding. If I need to self-publish, I will use it to get funds, but it's on a pause at the moment because if I get a publisher, that's probably not necessary.
When you mentioned about the doubling of the price and the inflation being on only 10%, this is something that I have lived with here. And now, as you said, I live in Poland. Back in Iran, literally, you wake up in the morning and things have changed. Price have changed. I experienced that twice in my lifetime when I was living there. And since I have come back here, after a point, the economy gets so shitty that these changes get accelerated. And if they took 20 years to happen, now they take several years, for example, 3-4 years to happen. And then after that, it becomes several times per 1 year. And I am here in Poland. The inflation situation is much better, but still invisibly funds are being stolen, or sneakingly funds are being stolen from us. I used to go to the grocery and do my normal shopping, for a day or two with something close to 25 euros. And it would always end up something less than that. And because I am not interested in fiat food, none of the things I get have a discount. It rarely happens that on your steak, on your butter sometimes, but it rarely happens that on these real foods you get a discount, but on other foods you do get lots of this discount. For buying two, you get the third one for free, or when you enter your loyalty code you get a discount. For these real proof of work foods, it doesn't happen. So they say that, it's only 10%, but it is like an open wound from which you are bleeding, and the bleeding continues. As long as this percentage is above zero, you are bleeding, your economy is bleeding. And now, though I have been here only in my adult life, I see that I go to the store and the same grocery I do, and it is double the price easily, and it easily goes beyond that. And it's a healthy economy that we are talking about. And in Austria, you also have had the same experience. That's really crazy.
I mean, it's always healthy compared to others, but I think as humans, we have no idea how a healthy economy actually would look like, because I think what we have in Poland or Austria is maybe healthy compared to Iran.
Yes.
But it's still, I think, just a fraction of that what would be possible if we had a good currency. And one thing I realized recently is with Bitcoin, of course, you can beat inflation because you can say, okay, I'm not really affected because I save in Bitcoin. But still, you feel the consequences because one thing of inflation is some companies, they don't want to raise prices because okay, people will will buy less. So what they do, they shrink actually the package, or they actually use cheaper ingredients.
Yes.
So, I think if you're eating steaks and eggs, okay, maybe you're not that affected, but I think in the normal fiat food, let's call it like that, yeah, the quality gets worse and worse. I think that's also one of the reasons why so many people have food problems because or allergies or something because yeah, the quality of the food is simply not as good as in the past.
Yeah, it definitely happens with steak and stuff. Probably, um, if when I was getting mm, a good quality steak from my point of view uh, at a shop here in Poland uh, about 7 years ago, 6 years ago, and the price was 16 zloty, which is something like for 4 to 5 euros, less than
Mhm.
5 euros, or maybe in that time 5 euros. If I saw an old man at the store and I said that this costs 16 zloty, and 16 zloty probably for him would have been a week's shopping in his youth. It's happening all the time, and it is just and that was an interesting aspect that I personally had given less thought to. That yeah, I am a Bitcoiner. I am less affected by government stealing from me, but companies also want to keep the price, so they make the package smaller or make the ingredients quality much less. And that is something that whether you are a Bitcoiner or you are not a Bitcoiner, you are still affected by that. There is no way out. The
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
world has to become a Bitcoiner. That was a good point.
right. It's of course not just the food. I think food is of course the most important thing we buy because we need it to survive, but it's also with other goods. With furniture, for example, you see the quality is simply not as good as like 20 years ago. Um, so at least if you pay a similar price. So yeah, I think it's as long as the system is working like that, I think it will continue like that. So yeah, it will be a downward trend with lower quality, higher prices, and yeah. So I think the best to combat it is still, of course, a Bitcoin being on a personal Bitcoin standard, but yeah, it's still probably not enough because you're still affected by the diminished quality of goods.
How Bitcoin has changed you? You are talking also about fiat food and all. Want to
Mhm.
know if your views about food has changed or have become strengthened after getting to know Bitcoin.
Mhm.
I am personally curious to know about your dietary habits, if it is in any way affected or not. And of course, my question is not limited to your diet, and I would like to know how Bitcoin changed.
Yeah, I think nowadays diet is the new religion because everybody cares a lot about the diet. Um, yeah, I would in general. I'm not sure if Bitcoin changed that much. Maybe I was involved in a lot of the alternative dietary trends like keto in the past, but I'm not doing them currently. So I'm not really restricted in a diet. I try to eat a lot of proteins, for example, animal fats, proteins. Um, but I'm not really restricting myself, so I'm not doing the Seifedina Mousse carnivore diet. Um, yeah, but I think, yeah, no, I don't think Bitcoin played a played a yeah played a huge part of that. It's more the general the reason probably why I discovered Bitcoin because I was curious about alternative ways of seeing things. I think this spirit actually brought me maybe to a more
Yeah.
alternative theory to see, okay, maybe butter is not as bad as people say. Maybe you should eat more eggs. Maybe, yeah, you can you can have eat red meat and then you will not get a heart attack from that. I think that actually, um, yeah, led me, yeah, to discover that. So I think Bitcoin was part of the journey, but I think it was kind of a process where I just looked into a lot of stuff and actually try to study alternative views. I think Bitcoin gives you a lot of actually relaxation. So because you're actually saving in something that is with a high likelihood rising in value, and and being now self-employed for 10 years, I think that was always an issue to have enough funds to actually finance your life if you have some bad months or a bad year or something. And I think thanks to saving now, mainly in Bitcoin, actually, I think there's now just so much more safety. It's like a safety net for me, and I think it enables me to live much more independently than I would without Bitcoin. Because if Bitcoin would not exist, I would probably still have stocks or gold or something like that, but it would be much less. So I would be probably much more afraid of having, a dry period in the business without clients. Now I can be relaxed and I know, I will be fine, at least for some time.
Back to your book, you have conducted 11 interviews so far.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned from the people you have interacted with that were interesting?
That's a good question. So I think most interviews were actually quite different. So everybody could actually bring something new to the table. So there were a lot of things. Where do I start? I mean, what I realized, I think a big issue now is actually the spending of Bitcoin, or the spending of Sats. So most people use it for saving, but not for spending. So they're saving Bitcoin and spend fiat currencies. I think that is about to change. So more people are willing to spend Sats. I mean, you also see it on Nostr, for example, where you get zapped all the time in Sats. But it's still so it's much bigger than like 4 years ago, but it's still very small compared to fiat, also among Bitcoiners. I think most people I interviewed, they think that will probably change in the next cycle or in the next 2 cycles, so that it will be much more common to spend sats. But for example, the Bitcoin restaurant still makes, of course, most of the revenue in fiat. So it's just when they have the the Vienna Bitcoin meetup that actually people come, and some of them actually pay in sats. And sometimes they have tourists that come to visit the place. But normal clients of that location, of that Bitcoin restaurant in Vienna, they actually pay in fiat. So I think that was a big part of the interviews, a big part of a lot of the talks I had. And it was also true, for example, in the circular economy in Zambia, that so I think they now have more than 100 vendors accepting Bitcoin, but of course the Bitcoin economy is still just a fraction of the whole economy they have, actually. So it's not maybe a first step that people accept it, but it's still very small, actually, in comparison. So, and this actually let me think, okay, what can we actually do to actually make it easier, more accepted as a paying method? Because probably that is necessary, not just to have like a saving vehicle, but also something that is used to pay for daily goods or etc.
What things do you need to change? That's an interesting thing. And that's a hopeful message. I always, when think about it, that Bitcoin is only a fraction of the world economy, and it is at this price. And imagine when it gets to 100%, 99% is not, or
Yeah.
above 90% for sure. has no stack in Bitcoin. Even if you
Right.
consider the ones who have their coin on Binance and Coinbase, maybe 90% of the world is not there at all. And there is a long way to go, which means there is a huge room for improvement. I
Right.
think about beautiful technologies like the Lightning Network that make things easier, but you need to have a prior channel. And as long as you have that channel, you can transfer money from your account to another with minimal fee and instantaneously. There are some problems, of course, but it has been a huge improvement. So one thing is at least introducing the Lightning Network to more people, but Lightning in itself is not going to be, for at this stage, Lightning is probably more than good enough, more than more than good enough. And but imagine it is 20% of the world using Bitcoin. Probably it's not going to be that optimal. Opening channels, closing channels is not going to be that easy because the number of blocks are limited. What things do you need to change? And in this respect, there are something like eCash being built on top of Lightning. I mean, the settlement layer is going to be back to Lightning and all. They are really interesting, mind-blowing technologies that I would recommend everyone to play around with. They are beautiful, and our friend Callie is on Nostr and on Twitter. You can follow him. He has made great contribution in this regard. That can change things. You can make offline private payments with it. Yeah. So, what do you think needs to change? What innovations do we need for us to go to the extra mile of maybe 95% of the population or
Yeah. Yeah.
90% of the population join us?
Yes. Good question. I mean, I think it's an exponential, actually development. So I think now a lot of things actually develop under the radar. We are not even noticing, but I think in some years it will just pop up, and then it will be everywhere. Actually, I think I believe that. So, and if we compare the situation to like 4 years ago, I think not that many circular economies actually existed at that stage. So now it seems that they're like getting created. Every day I hear of a new actual place where actually a circular economy is built. And I think it's beautiful that it is happening in a decentralized way. And I think it has to happen in a decentralized way because I think Bitcoin is not something that should be enforced by the government. For example, we have seen that in El Salvador with I think it was called Chivo wallet, which was actually very bad designed. I think it was not even accepting Lightning. And then, of course, nobody used it because it was the usability in that case is not so good for day-to-day purchases. But I think if we manage to just build things on the ground, onboard vendors, onboard people, one by one, I think eventually we will reach a critical mass. From the technical aspect, so in this case, I'm not the expert. I think, yeah, probably Lightning needs to change after reaching a certain stage, or we have to add something on Lightning, maybe a layer 3 or something to make it work for the whole world. But I think the technology will progress. So it's not like that people are now stop developing solutions. I think the more accepted it will become, the more people will work on it, the more solutions we will see that enable more people to getting onboarded easily. Of course, I think the biggest threat now is that actually we now just go back to centralization or full centralization because that's probably easier to scale. So I think that will be actually the question of the next years to find solutions that are decentralized. Probably we will have a balance. I think for the majority of people, they are not really, I think, too deep into tech. They're not going to run their own node. I think we need to be realistic. So I think some Bitcoiners overestimate the general population. And so I think the people who run their own node, who actually are really decentralized, be their own bank, there will be a minority. So probably 5%, definitely less than 10%. And I think majority of people will probably use some centralized network. Like most people now with Lightning use that wallet of Satoshi, which is kind of centralized. But it's easy to use. It's user friendly. That's the reason why it's so popular. Probably for Bitcoin to really be a revolution, there always needs to be the possibility to be your own bank. So at least with Lightning, you can run your own node. You can be independent of wallet of Satoshi. If you get debanked in future by wallet of Satoshi, I hope that will never be the case. But eventually, in such a future where a government says, okay, you have to debank those people, those wallets, then you can still go and, okay, I will run my own node and you cannot debank me. So I think it's important that you at least have the optionality to, be independent, to be decentralized. I think then it can work out. But the issue is that for the majority of people, they will probably seek a more centralized solution because it's just easier to use, and they don't want to. I think they just want to have an app that allows them to pay. They don't want to have the tech in the background. They don't want to think about how it's working because let's be fair. I think nowadays nobody knows how the banking system's working, but you know how to use it, how to use a bank card, a credit card, etc. And I think for the most people, that's enough. And I think that's totally fine.
That's true that the Bitcoin community kind of overestimates the general population. I have friends who are really geniuses in the field that they are active in. And the fact that you are securing your Bitcoin with 12 words and there are Bitcoin addresses, there is one public key, and all of this is generated by randomness, how secure it is, and all of these are questions for them, as they have been, and they are questions for me. So there are technologies that make onboarding easier or the trust minimized. I find the Aqua wallet an interesting innovation. It is still trusted, but the trust is diverse or dispersed between, I think, 15 or 16 entities, and not one entity can decide it for you. It is very important to know the risk profile of everything that you are using. I do use Wallet of Satoshi, and I have to say this is one of the easiest wallets that I use for onboarding people. But the problem is the centralization. If they shut down or they just delete your account from their database, your money is also gone. So you should know how much money you are putting in them, and how and when you are teaching people about them, tell them that, I sent you $1, $10. That's just not the setup that you are going to be relying on for your life saving. For that, you need to go one step higher and learn Blue Wallet. And these all have some resistances, and people often get confused that they are going to use 12 words to secure their wallets. This is so uncommon. And they, of course, I'm saying all of these in agreement with you that we need way easier solutions to help people get onboarded.
I mean, probably it will always be a mix of some centralized solutions for the masses and then some more technical solutions for the people who want to be independent, who want to be their own bank. And I think that's, in the end, probably that's okay. So as long as you have the option to go that path, that's okay. But we will always need the nerds, because I think the nerds are actually the ones who secure our freedom by using technology that cannot be censored.
I also noticed that you are on Nostr, and it is not that you only have your profile. When I connected with you, I noticed that you gave me a follow on Nostr, and um, you are active there, engaging comments, and actually use the app. So I really love a lot Nostr and spend a lot of time on it with respect to education and also with respect to usage. Want to know how you got interested into Nostr, what you see in it, and then I have a kind of recommendation for you regarding fundraising and using Nostr.
So curious to hear. I think at first started using Nostr like 2 years ago, but then I forgot about it. But I came back to it, I think, when I started the book journey like 2 months ago. I started to check it out, and I saw that people who were not long active on Twitter, like Gigi, were actually active on Nostra and creating content on Nostra. So that kept my interest and kept me interested. And so that was the reason why I started posting and think, and right now, it's actually the only social app I've installed on my phone. So I'm still using different social media, but on the phone, I only have Nostra because first I deinstalled the other apps because I just didn't want to check my phone all the time. I think now the problem is I'm checking Nostra all the time, but there's not so much content yet, so it's okay. It's not that addictive. It kind of feels like the old internet forums from the 2000s. For example, I was in a gaming forum, and it was nice because you knew the people you were interacting with, and there was limited content. After a while, you were reading all the threads, so then it was not longer. Then you could just stop scrolling and did other things. I think now it's similar with Nostra. Of course, I guess it will change if it gets bigger. I think it will have similar issues like Twitter or Instagram, but probably since you can, or at least have the option to better control the algorithm, it will be
Yes.
less toxic, I hope. So, which is a huge problem on Twitter. You click on some random video and then you get recommended the same content all the time, even if you don't want to see it. And so I think Nostr, you have better control. And I think the Zaps are really probably the kill application of Nostr because I would even go as far as to say you should just remove the like button and just say Zaps only.
I would say so too. Yeah.
Because like there's the saying in English, talk is cheap and likes are cheap as well because they don't cost anything. And you can fake engagement so easily. With Zaps, at least, of course, you to a certain extent you can pay for engagement, but it's costlier. so there are real world costs behind it, and it's a much stronger signal. If you get zapped, okay, you have created good content in general. And of course, you can still use it for advertisement. I can say I I'm zapping for engagement, but at least you have real costs. It's not like liking 1,000 people where, okay, the only cost is maybe time, but of course you can outsource that with bots, so then you don't have the time issue.
Yeah, exactly. So we have advertisement already on Nostr, and it is through real money. You pay in Zaps to get the engagement, and that's beautiful. And I really believe in what you said, that we should go as far as removing the like button. There was one platform, I think Astral.Ninja. I don't know whether they still work or not. I think they do. I think I have it on my Umbrel too. They didn't have the like button. They had the zap button, at least 2 years ago. Astral.
What app are you using for accessing Nostra?
Mostly on computer, I use Primal and Iris, and they are both browser based. And Iris also has the Nostr Wallet Connect capability, so you can connect it to your Lightning wallet. And it has improved a lot. Iris, it has a one of the very essential features that it has is and that, for example, Primal does not, is that it has the deletion request. I if I want to delete something, or better to say, if I want to send a deletion request, because it's up to the relay if they want to delete it or not. But it actually works anyway. Nobody wants to back up all my tweets in my life. There is less incentive for that. But if a famous person says that, that's a different story. I mean, a famous politician says that. On my phone, I use Damus and Primal. So I have an Android phone, and I am thinking of using it in conjunction with Amber. Especially, I want to make an instructional video about Amber Signer app and using Amethyst with it. Because I hear very good things about Amethyst, but since my main phone is iPhone, I haven't had much chance to use it. So far, Damus, Primal, Iris are the main apps that I am using.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I'm
you?
right now using Primal, but probably I should check out more alternatives and see how they compare with each other. So, but yeah, but I think it improved a lot in the last years compared to 2 years ago. Yeah, it's really working well. And once you have set up the sapping, then it's not an issue anymore. And I think that's the beauty about the Lightning Network, that you can really send small sums of money without actually a significant fee. So that I can just send a couple of saps to you, and that I think that's such a huge innovation, and I think it's something like, actually it should be in the internet should work like that. You should be able to send value, not just emails and information. I think that is something that was a component of the internet that was missing for a long time, and now we have it, thanks to Bitcoin, thanks to Lightning, and thanks to Nostr, of course.
You mentioned Geeky even before we started to talk, and also during our recording. He has this very interesting presentation. Maybe you have seen it too. And for those who are listening, check it out. It has a very simple idea, but that idea is very groundbreaking. Nobody zaps a car crash, and that shows how much and to what extent things are wrong with the current social media and the algorithm
Yeah,
based social media, attention driven social media.
I'm not sure if nobody, but I think it will be less.
Maybe less.
Probably less than people would like it. I mean, people like videos like that.
Mhm.
So at least on
Yes.
Twitter, but maybe that's bot based. I'm not sure. But I think because it's your own money, you're much more selective what you actually sap.
100%. Yeah. And again, no affiliation. I met the guy who created this platform on top of Nostr in Bitcoin Film Fest in Warsaw. The platform's name is Angor, and this Angor is used for crowdfunding. So you were thinking about, you mentioned that you are thinking about ways to do crowdfunding for your book. Maybe at least as an experiment, it's good to give it a try and share your story with us, how it goes. And it is Nostr based, so all
Angor
Bitcoin.
is the name.
Angor, Angor. I
Angor.
will also set the logo
Yeah,
and
yeah,
write the name on the
right.
screen.
Yeah,
Um,
sounds interesting. Yeah. I mean, right now I'm using Geyser, so which is not Nostr based, but Lightning based. So you can use Lightning to fund, or you can also use normal Bitcoin. But I think most payments come in by the Lightning network, and that was actually working very well. I also interviewed the founder of Geyser for my book, and he also mentioned that maybe Nostr will be a competitor to his platform, or make it obsolete, because it's just so easy to actually fund on Nostra, because you can just fund by sapping a post. So, and of course you can build something based on Nostr with maybe which is more focused on crowdfunding, and then you'd get just funding by Zaps. I'm totally interested, so I think I will definitely look into it. Personally, I have to see if I need the crowdfunding. I don't want to crowdfund now if I'm getting a publisher and don't need the funds. But if I should self-publish, I will definitely give it a try and see how that is working.
Mm-hmm. And one other question that just popped into my head: uh, have you written other books too, or is it your first book?
I was once a ghostwriter for a book. I cannot disclose now, but it was for a friend of mine who is operating a YouTube channel, and I was writing the book for him. So yeah, it will be the first book. I've written in my name, but it's not the first book I've written in my life.
Awesome. So how can people follow you and support your work?
Yes, I think the best way to follow me for Bitcoin content is Twitter and Nostr. So I think the best is probably to have it in the video description. The Twitter name is dpegs. So yeah, it's better to just write it down. And on Nostr, I will give you my Nostr public key.
Yeah, I will
to connect. Yeah,
drop both of them in the description below.
that's awesome.
Philipp Alexander, thank you for your time. It's been a great chat.
Yeah,
I could easily have talked more with you, but I'm trying to keep the talks to 1 hour, and I want to be also respectful of your time. So thank you for coming on and for all the.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and we definitely have to talk about the book, because I think you would make a good interview partner. I think your story sounds really interesting and your background. So yeah, let's have a chat maybe in the next days or weeks again, and then you have to talk to me and explain your story.
Yeah, that would be exciting. Looking forward to it. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and give the video a like. It really helps. If you're tuning in on a podcast app, I'd love it if you could leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. It goes a long way in helping more people find the show. You can also support me by listening on Podcasting 2.0 apps like Fountain or Breeze, and streaming me some sats while you listen. Feel free to zap me and follow me on Nostr too. If you'd like to send a Lightning donation, just scan the QR code or visit my Linktree. The link is in the description. You'll find more ways to support or follow my work there.